Hello, welcome everyone. Today is our March 4th, 2025 board briefing. Please let the record reflect that Commissioners Jordan, Waldrop, and Kearns are present in our hearing room. Commissioners French and Cuny are out today, and we are going to lead off with a presentation from Mike Burgess, an update from Olympia. So take it away, Mike.
Hello, Commissioners. Just going to run through a bill list today because we're at a point now where not a lot of new stuff is being introduced, just given that we're past the cutoff date. So just to refresh your memory, we're about halfway through session. Tomorrow is the midway point. We just passed this past Friday the fiscal committee cutoff, so bills that cost money had to be out of the Appropriations Committee or out of the Ways and Means Committee, and several that we've discussed were in those committees, and then I'll update you on those. And what we're doing now is we are out on the House and Senate floors for their prolonged floor debate on their bills from the House of Origin. So Senate bills need to be out of the Senate, House bills out of the House by the 12th of March. And then what'll end up happening is at that point, we'll transition into seeing the budgets. I've been told the budget releases would be early that week following that March 12th cutoff. So then looks like Monday is the 17th, 18th, something in that neighborhood, or maybe even the week before. And that will just kind of set the table for things as we focus on the budget, and then these policy bills are worked on. Obviously, the big issue with the budget is the shortfall and how the majority party proposes to close that. Governor Ferguson did weigh in on this last Thursday. You might have seen a lot of press coverage that he had proposed cuts in addition to cuts that Governor Inslee had proposed. I think Governor Inslee had proposed about 3 billion in cuts, and then Governor Ferguson added another 4 that he discussed last week. A lot of them, though, are by my read, I've been going through some of them, they're decreases and increases. So one of the ones that would be county impactful is foundational public health. That foundational public health received pretty considerable increases, logically, of course, during COVID, and those had stayed in place. And the governor's budget, he proposed dialing some of those increases back. So you'd still be, by my math, you'd still be ahead of where foundational public health was pre-COVID, but not as far as ahead or above the level that it was when it started. So, but again, remember, these are just proposals. The Senate and House have both indicated that they would like to look towards new revenue. The governor, not that he was silent on that, but he just said he's been pretty consistent saying he wanted that to be a last resort and wants to look at efficiencies and cuts and those types of things. So anyway, I don't have much more to add on that other than we'll get a lot, clearer look in the next few weeks about, where they're looking for revenue and those types of things. So if it's okay, I'll just transition to the budget or our bill list. Again, nothing here is new. These are all bills that we've talked about that you've all taken positions on. That freight rail assistance bill did not make it out of committee. So wanted to by last Friday. So just updating you that I'll take it off the list now. It'll still be on my list, but it's not one we'll talk about because it won't be timely, given that it didn't make it out of the Appropriations Committee. 1135, that was that GMA bill that Scott Chesney talked with you about a few weeks ago. I believe there has been language that was worked through the Association of Counties and Snohomish and King in particular that get that bill to a place that is workable and an agreement has been reached. I've seen part of the language. I haven't seen the final, but I think that bill could pass off the House floor in the next few days with that agreed upon language. The competency evaluation bill, this is one of the ones we talked about very early in session that has the potential to shift a lot of costs down onto the county. We still remain opposed to that bill. It is in the House Rules Committee. It would have to advance from rules to be voted on by the floor or by the full House. But I do know that there are a lot of conversations going on in regard to that bill to mitigate the costs, or even just to flat out, just oppose the bill and have it not pass. So the next one, the 911 funding issue, no update there other than to say it is still in the Rules Committee. I shared with you the language last week, or we discussed the language last week. I have no new update on any new language or anything like that. The law enforcement hiring grants, I guess I should take 1435 off. I should have done that because 5060 is the bill that's moving. That's lower on the list, but it is moving, and it has moved its way to the House floor. And then the comp plan updates, that's the delay bill. It's moving. It's on the second reading calendar, so that means it could be voted out off the House floor, in the next few days. I do get a list of bills that have been caucused on, and that bill has not shown up on the caucusing list yet. But that's not a problem. It's just from a time standpoint, they just haven't gotten to it yet. But I feel good about where that's at right now. And then same with 1813. That was the bill that Justin briefed you all about a couple weeks ago. That's in good shape and a good bill for the county. The aviation support bill also is moving. And then 5060 I discussed a minute ago. That's again the hiring bill from Senator Holy. So you'll see there it says in the middle there it says Senate S second reading. So that means Senate second reading. So that means it's on the actual floor calendar itself. So it could be voted on at any time. 5197 I'll pull off because that is it's not a true companion to 1135, but it's basically the same bill. So I don't think that 5197 would move given the agreement on 1135, but I'll continue to watch that. And then on to the next page, the environmental crimes legislation, it is on the floor calendar, but that's the one we talked about with Kyle last week, and I've expressed those concerns that we talked about, in particular on your employees and your ability to hire. And there's a pretty broad group of different interests, as you can imagine, that are working in opposition to that bill or trying to at least change it, get some clarity in it. That public
Can I have a
defense services
question
bill
on that one?
Oh, sure,
Mike,
Commissioner.
does WASAC or AWC have an official position on that bill?
It's a good question, Commissioner. I don't know that they do. As I was contacted by my colleague that works for WASAC, making sure that we were weighing in. But I don't know that the Legislative Steering Committee took an official position on it. I mean, Commissioner French sits on that. But even if they didn't, a number of their members are in contact because not all the counties are situated the same in terms of having a wastewater treatment plant. I did raise the issue with my colleague that lobbies for the city, and he just said that they would look into it, in particular on the labor side. But if I run into him, I'll try to close the loop on that. So I hope that answers your question, sort of.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. The growth management plans, that's the same as, it's not a true companion to 1700, but as you can see there, it is on the second reading calendar. So that's good where it's supposed to be. Oh, and I should have dropped off. That's the Leonard Christian bill. I should have dropped that one off because it won't move forward this session. And then the 5703, that's the waste to energy bill, needs to be pulled from rules to the floor. And then it needs to get voted out of the Senate by the 12th. But also I've relayed your support for that bill to delegation members. But I'll poke around a little bit on that one too, to see if it's got some other issues or if there's anything going on there. So, but that's kind of where we're at now. Just updates on where these bills are. And then once we get to the budgets in the next few weeks, we'll dive into those and look at the capital budgets as well, and see where everything's laying out. But like I said, not a lot of new topics, just updates on where things are.
Any questions for Mike? Go for it. Yep.
Mike, I watched part of the governor's press conference, kind of weighing in with his latest suggestions. And one thing I found pretty encouraging was his proposal says maintain all investments to address homelessness and housing assistance from the current biennium. So we had a recent conversation about how we might kind of prioritize homelessness related funds that we have. So I'm just curious, do you have any sense of how the legislature is receiving those types of proposals, knowing that I think he also said we're about halfway through closing the deficit in terms of his
Right.
proposals. So just wondering how realistic we think those types of ideas are, or if we have any idea.
I think, well, Commissioner, I mean, some of this is editorial comment on my own. But I think that just the amount of investment that the legislature's made in those areas the last few years, it would be odd to then, cut a bunch of dollars back. If anything, the legislature's looked at expanding those programs um, beyond what's already being done. And you're right, the governor did, in some way, I guess I'd use the term hold those harmless, but he was clear too that about holding public safety harmless and didn't cut K-12. The cuts that he's talking about came from other areas in the budget. And, it's if you think about it, if K-12 is over half the budget, by the time you pile in the public safety stuff, I don't know what the exact percentage is, but I would guess you're into the mid 50s. So then you're closing this gap by looking at only 45% of your budget, if that makes sense to you. And so that's a difficult choice. That's why you saw the kind of across the board cuts to higher ed institutions and some things like that. But you're right. I do think that there's probably a desire to maintain those services. And a lot of times too, especially with the majority party now, the rub here is that if you're going to make cuts, you're probably going to make cuts to the folks that are most vulnerable populations that need the assistance. And then it becomes a perpetuating problem, I mean, and those are the kind of things that you hear from lead budget writers. I think, we heard some of that when we met with Representative Ormsby. So, yeah, I think your observation is correct. And I think that, we'll get more clarity, but I would be surprised to see if there was any sort of deep cuts in those types of things from the legislature.
All right, anything else for Mike? Okay. All right, Mike.
All
Well,
right.
thanks for everything you're doing. Keep fighting and keep us in the loop throughout the week if anything pops up.
Yep, you got it. Thanks, commissioners. Have a good day. Bye.
Bye. Okay, we're quite a ways ahead of schedule. So I'm looking here. People on campus.
Got a miscellaneous one.
Yeah,
we could
let's hop to
cover.
miscellaneous, and if someone could maybe call Matt or Kyle.
I was
Come
going
on
to
down.
make a comment about how efficient things seem with 3 commissioners, but I decided I'm not going to make any comments, so.
Oh, we got Kyle online or with us, but Jeff, let's start with miscellaneous.
Wanted to talk federal agenda. Senator Murray has opened her portal for putting in earmark request. We're in that situation where the 25 budget, which started October 1st, so we're halfway through the 25 fiscal year, but we don't have a budget. The 14th, next week, we will know whether government shuts down, whether they do a continuing resolution through the rest of the year. If they do the continuing resolution, our $3 million for the stabilization center would not be included. This is the only place I'm told it. And then I shut it off. And then if we do not, they could also pass a budget. So those are three options: shut down, a budget, which should include our money most likely, or a CR, which would not. But then we also need to look at the 26 budget, which they're gathering for this coming October. So then that begs the question: do we re-up with the stabilization center? If we think, two of our 3 choices would involve not getting it this year. Or do we want to put another item in? Or conceivably, you could put both in. And if we get the stabilization center, if that's our top priority, in this year's budget, just call and say we're pulling it. And then if we don't get it in the 25 budget, we could pull whatever else we put in and say we want to keep it, if that is the board's top priority. The other items that have been discussed would be the clean buildings activity that we need to be doing, saving some of our capital and general fund. There's also been some talk around PFAS. Those are the 2 that are in my memory. If I'm forgetting some, apologies.
What do you recommend? I mean, I mean, I guess I'm looking at what are the realities of, I mean, sort of the crystal ball type thing. I mean, what do you think is gonna happen? I mean, I think we had all agreed we wanted the stabilization center, but is there a high likelihood we're not gonna get anything from that? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, I thought it was sort of stabilization center this year, we're all in on that. Sort of for next year, I think the majority of us were looking at sort of Clean Buildings Act, but if we don't get the stabilization center, does that kind of push everything back a year to where, okay, stabilization center this year now, and then Green Buildings Act next year, but, I mean, we have another funding source for stabilization
That's
center.
the thing, there is another funding source,
For
one of
sta-
our
for
rare
stabilization
funding
center.
sources that has money.
Yeah,
For the stabilization center, we do not have another funding source for the clean buildings.
yeah.
So as we're looking at a budget, would we, is the preference to preserve the general fund and just move on to clean buildings? And if we get the stabilization center, great. If we don't, we do have the opioid settlement funds and mental health dollars.
Yeah.
I can't say there's a right or wrong, that's just a choice.
Question, so one of the options is to basically submit both, is that what you're saying? So pending the outcome of last year's budget or whatever, the crisis
The budget we're
stabilization.
halfway through,
The
yes.
one we're in, what if we did both for next year's budget, and if we get the crisis stabilization this
it.
year or this time, pull it? I just hate to pull that off preemptively
Yeah.
when we don't have a clear answer yet, given, I think it is a high priority. It would be my top priority to maintain that, just because of the importance of the issue. But obviously, the infrastructure improvements are also very important for the reasons you stated. So I think take a look at both if that's an option, and then pull one back if we get it.
Yeah, I mean, we could ask for 100, logic says don't,
Yeah.
but, yeah.
Maybe two.
There's not a limit.
But,
And so,
I mean, in your experience, I mean, are you in a better situation only asking for one thing?
I think usually yes, but I think a phone call to the office
Okay.
that John certainly could place on our behalf, he knows it very well, just letting them know this is our strategy.
Okay.
To me, that would make sense. I've not
All right.
talked with him about this yet, but I'll go give him a call and get his feedback also. I can shoot around an email and everybody know what he thinks
Okay.
of the double approach and then mixing one along the way, depending on which way the wind blows.
I think that makes sense. Go in, apply for both, and then we'll see as we get through March what happens in DC, and then we can make a call to the local office and
Yeah,
the-
working up the food
the
chain.
federal office and just say, okay, this is our top priority. Pull back the other one, just depending on what happens with the 25 budget.
So then we will start gathering letters of support for clean buildings, which is kind of an odd one, letters of support. But we have to have, I think we have to have two. Like, they don't go
Well,
in
I-
without attaching at least two.
I really think you can frame it, though, that we're making necessary also just infrastructure improvements.
I'm not concerned
to-
about framing it, just where do we go for letters of support?
Oh, okay.
Like, there's not, with SRSC, we have obvious partners. Plants Ferry, we have obvious partners.
I
This is
see.
us. Who is our partner for letters of support?
Would the city have a stake in that, given that they're a partner in the public safety building?
Right, I mean,
We're
that's what I was
Potentially.
thinking.
I like the idea.
I don't see why not. I do recall when we had talked about this, while it is a need and we don't have clearly identified funding sources, I think we talked about, is this going to be a relevant funding topic for the federal delegation? Are they going to see this as a win for them? The Crisis Stabilization Center, the expansion is clearly an important thing for our region. That's
Do
just,
we have environmental groups that would be supportive of this, that would write letters? I think that would speak to the senators.
I think
I'm
that-
sure they exist.
Can I check your Rolodex?
I'm looking at Commissioner Waldron.
Well, I was gonna suggest like Gonzaga's Climate Center.
Okay, do you have a contact there?
Yes,
Perfect,
yeah, Dr. Henning, so, yes.
okay.
Well, I mean, they've been doing a lot to, and they're working with us on our
That's a
climate
good idea,
change
and,
chapter
maybe
of our
WSU would
comp
have a
plan.
similar too,
So I think
Good
Gonzaga's
plan.
name would be good
Mhm.
on there.
for sure.
Okay, I'll follow up, but I was also gonna just note that if we haven't, something that I forgot to ask Mike Burgess about, but if we think it would be helpful, I don't know if we ever got a letter from the city for our our Olympia ask for the stabilization center expansion. We did.
Justin will be upstairs in a moment. When I go back up, I'll ask him. They're doing some work.
I know
based
we
out.
did for our earmark request
Mhm.
to Cantwell and Murray, but I'm not sure if we got one to the Senate committee.
Correct.
And so I just want to, I mean, they could just take the same letter and
Yeah,
rework
just
it.
Redate it and change the two.
But I think someone asked us in Olympia if like there had been a letter of support from the city, and I thought, and I mentioned it to the city lobbyists that we ran into,
Okay.
but we just need to close the loop on that. So, couldn't hurt. We had good meetings
Yeah.
with both the budget, capital budget chairs, but it couldn't hurt to have that same letter of support from the city. Sorry. But I agree. I will follow up with Gonzaga's Climate Change Center. But what I meant was, I think we could speak to, just maintaining the court building, the public safety building, the jail, like, all these upgrades will help us maintain and support those buildings for another
Yeah, another
50
generation.
to 100 years. And so there is a public safety nexus to it. So I don't know if I don't know if it really makes sense to get, something from the court system. But anyway,
Mm.
just thought,
Mhm.
Not a
the
bad
presiding
idea.
judge or something.
Mhm.
Okay,
We're good?
thank you. Nothing seems too exciting in DC right now. It's pretty quiet,
Yeah.
so everything's kind
Yeah,
of status
it's gonna be
quo,
really quiet
I
tonight.
think. Yeah. Okay. All right, Chandra, if you come on down, we're ahead of schedule. Thanks for coming down a little early.
Good morning, Commissioners. Okay, there. All right. I have to be close to it? Okay. I'm pretty loud, so. Yeah, okay. So anyway, I have two items to brief you on this morning. The first is we've received our contract for federal fiscal year 24 Operation Stone Garden funding. The award amount, really? Oh my God. I'll just like sit right here. Okay, is that better? All right. So the award amount is $107,250, and as is typical with the Operation Stone Garden funding, the bulk of that funding goes to helicopter maintenance as well as overtime for our deputies. Also on this grant, we are purchasing snowshoes for the helicopter. I didn't know there was such a thing, but there is. It's special attachments that go on the helicopter to allow it to land in deep snow. So, yeah, that's a thing. And then my second item is the hazard mitigation plan update. You saw our grant for that last month. This is the contract for our consultant. The mitigation plan is a highly technical plan, and it is the only plan that we maintain that we actually hire a consultant for. Everything else we do in-house, but due to the technical nature of this, we do hire a consultant for it. We did go sole source on this because our consultant has done the previous two iterations of the plan, and this is just an update of the plan. So, any questions?
Any questions for Chandra?
Okay, great.
We're
Thank you,
good.
guys.
Thank you. All right, Matt Zarakor. Staff signing authority. Okay. To the podium.
Good morning. Just a couple of quick items here. I'm going to do the next one too for Kyle. This one's just getting signatory authority for the Public Works Operations Building, specifically to do a boundary line adjustment. But if there's other contract negotiations, giving him signatory authority to do that. I don't know, was there a PowerPoint, I think, Ron? It's one I believe you've seen before. It was kind of an update of the Public Works Ops Building, but the next slide or two shows the boundary line adjustment. Oh no, this is the next one. Sorry, that was Kyle's. Did I have one? Yeah, that's. Sorry, Ron, making you drive. Yeah, thank you. So that's the Wilbert Vault site, and that's obviously before we started building, and the red outline is all of the parcels that we have. Next slide. So you can see that's the before and after of the parcel layouts that we're proposing, and really it's just to put the entire site on one parcel. And we're keeping the number of parcels, you probably know, but creating parcels is very difficult. There's value in just having parcels. So we kind of aggregated the parcels up along the north property line, north of the building site there. So you'll see we have the same number of parcels before and after. Just gives you options in the future. These boundary line adjustments are really quick and easy, but doing a short plat is very time consuming and cumbersome. So better off to keep parcels. And again, this is just a resolution giving Kyle the authority to sign on behalf of the board to do the boundary line adjustment. Happy to answer any questions about that.
Any questions for Matt? Looks good.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do the next one too. Okay, yeah, Deb Geiger was going to come down and do this, but we're so far ahead that I'll just cover it for her, and if you have other questions, she'll, I'm sure, be down shortly. Yeah, okay, thanks. Next slide. So I'm not sure if the board's been briefed on this at all yet. This is a solid waste parcel. That's the Valley Transfer Station you can see at the bottom of the aerial there. And there's an opportunity to pick up 6 acres directly north of our current site. Next slide. This is just some of the details on the purchase and sale agreement. The purchase price is $1.15 million. We have 10,000 earnest money and a 90-day feasibility. I believe they're working on the phase 1. That's pending, and we have an option of a phase 2 assessment. And there aren't any early concerns, but obviously always a good idea to do a phase 1, at least when you're purchasing a piece of property, especially next to the tracks. So anyway, happy to answer any questions. Everybody I've been talking to, it's one of those opportunities. You don't want to get landlocked with your project there, especially when you're kind of a one-off like a transfer station, because then you have to go through the whole process of acquiring permissions to do it, where expansion's quite a bit easier and cleaner typically than trying to find a whole new site if we outgrow this parcel at some point in the future, which doesn't seem at all unlikely. But happy to answer any questions on this.
All right, I think we're good.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
Appreciate it, thank
Yeah.
you. Okay, we'll jump back to miscellaneous. We do have a Skrills agenda in here, so just looking for head nods. I think this is one Commissioner CUNY chairs. Everybody okay with it?
My head is nodding.
Okay, 3 head nods, great. So that will proceed to, I assume, next week's consent agenda. Media, press release, and proclamation. Pat?
Good morning, Commissioner. So as briefed last week under miscellaneous, the chair has a press release. I can circulate it to the board with a quote for your consideration of the STARS Award this afternoon. There's also a speaker, and Justin Johnson is willing to introduce them. I believe you would need to take that item separately. if you all wanted to discuss that ahead of time or at the meeting. But that would allow us to hear from STARS about the partnership with the Department of Commerce. And we do anticipate potentially some interviews afterwards, so I'll get with your staff on availability if there's media interest. We have 2 proclamations up today, one on developmental disabilities and one on women helping women. We'll have speakers from both of those groups along with a ceremonial photo after the presentation. As was discussed last week, we have another proclamation coming up. I believe it's April or May for Mental Health Month. And then there's also Public Health, which has been circulated by Gina to your staff, asking for a sponsor for that one. Public Health Week, I believe, they're asking for like April 1st or the first week of April, but I was thinking that might be one for the chair of the Board of Health, but I'll defer to you all for guidance on who might want to take that one, or if we want to take it at all.
Oh, this doesn't conflict with Spring Break Week this year, so we'll actually be in session.
Do we know what week Public Health Week is? Yeah, because last year, we adopted the resolution the week after Public Health Week, so.
Because we didn't meet.
So
yeah.
even if we do it sometime in March, I mean, it's better to do it before Public Health Week than
That would be
after
nice,
Public Health.
to actually
so.
say, it's coming, instead of it
Yeah.
came.
Yes,
Yeah,
let
so
me
we
take a
were
look.
late last year, I do remember that.
It's April 7th through the 13th, so it's actually the second week. So we could adopt it the week you're in session or
Okay.
at the
Yeah,
end of March.
That's what I would,
Awesome.
so that would be, like, is it March, is it April 1st or March 31st? It's a Monday before that?
Look at my calendar here.
I could,
Yeah, March 31st is a Monday
Yeah.
and April
Oh,
1st
April
is a
1st.
Tuesday.
It's
Okay.
Tuesday.
April Fools, okay.
Mhm.
Well, I'd be happy to do it. Amy is out for a few days, so if the email went to her, I hadn't seen it that
Oh,
yet, so.
okay, very
Okay.
good.
But I'm happy
Okay.
to do that one.
I'll close the loop on that. And then one last update for you all on KSPS. I understand, of course, it's Commissioner Jordan, and his guest has been confirmed. So that should be a great interview. We'll be taping on Friday and have some
Who do you think it
teasers
is?
and the promotional out. Did you want to say who your
I
guest
am
is?
Yes.
having Luke Jasmine,
Oh,
Governor's Eastern Washington representative.
Awesome. Great. So that's it for communications, unless there's any questions.
On the STARS,
Yeah, and so we will take that separate, correct? Is there any
Sure,
problem with
that's
yeah.
fine.
We'll have them come up, speak to it.
and did you say Justin and a speaker from STARS are coming? Perfect.
Yes, if you'd like, Justin will be prepared to introduce the
That'd
item
be
for you.
great.
Okay.
Do you
So-
have a draft press release?
Yes, and I will circulate
Okay.
that to you shortly.
Very good.
so I had to jump off last week when I was in DC. What's the award?
No, you'll get briefed on it.
Oh, it's gonna be a
No, I'm
surprise.
joking, I'm joking.
So as I understand it from drafting the press release with Justin, and I know Scott could speak to this as well from the departmental level, but it's a $775,000 award, which is a 25% matching grant for some funding coming through from Department of Commerce to purchase their Cowley project, their Cowley property, which is going to be, it already is and has been developed since last summer into a behavioral health facility. So I think this is the short-term, immediate triage and sobering services as we are continuing to work on and develop the crisis stabilization center and the sobering 23-hour center expansion there.
That's item 6A
Okay.
on our agenda.
And so that was the dollars to help purchase the building, and then we have some dollars going into the project as well, right?
Yep, we had a total of 1.2 million, 1.25. So of that, the 775 is going towards the assistance with the down payment. And then the remainder, we're helping with startup funds for operating costs for it.
Great. It'll be great to recognize that today.
Very good.
And then just to plan for this afternoon, we do have the 2 proclamations, the Women Helping Women Week and the Developmental Disabilities Awareness Month. Which ones would each of you like to read? Since I'm chairing, you guys,
I've got the, I'll do the Women Helping Women.
okay?
Oh, darn it. Okay, fine. I'll do the developmental disabilities.
Sounds
Gladly.
perfect. Okay. And Pat, just before the 2 o'clock starts, if you can give us the names of the folks who are here on behalf of each of those groups?
Yes, I know Shelley and Gina has those, and I'll make sure you have them.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And now we are joined by, oh,
That's okay.
Anything
I have a miscellaneous, but I can do it later.
oh, okay. Rose Noble. From the PAC at Visit Spokane.
Yes,
So,
I have something, can I address you and bring it, okay. Just want to make sure. Here's one for the record. This was not included in the presentation because we just
Thank you.
finalized this, so I can give you all the important. So today, I was quite persistent of getting in front of y'all, so thank you for letting me be here. Josh sits on the board, so he gets to have tourism updates regularly. But it was my intention to get in front of you every quarter this year, just kind of give you an idea of what we've been up to. The county invests a lot into tourism, and it is a $1.5 billion industry, so you should know what's going on. So I think I'll just click through really quickly the presentation. What you have in front of you is our community impact report that we just launched last Wednesday. Thank you, Ron, for attending. I'm sure he hasn't memorized. So I'll reference numbers in the report, just kind of verbally as we go through our presentation. So really quickly, we are devised of a few departments. We have a partnership and engagement department, we have sales, we have marketing, and we also have our administration department, and then convention services. So today with partner engagement, you can click to the next slide. We just wanted to let you know that through 2024, we do have some revenue generating partners, so we're not only reliant on the tax and the assessment. We do have some membership models, as well as some paid partnership and then some advertising that we do. In addition, the community partner listing, that is a free listing that is on all of our digital channels. So any tourism facing business that doesn't need an additional sale, like doesn't have an extra space for us to sell, actually gets free promotion through all of our channels. Next slide. We were a little bit down in our advertising revenue. There's some reasons for that this year. We actually changed up kind of how we're doing our visitor guide, as well as we had some turnover in our finance director position and a new CEO, myself, and all of these things. So we're working on getting that back up, but you can see we traditionally bring in around $300,000 in additional revenue through advertising. Next slide. New in 24, we really leaned into nonprofit mission alignment. In our community impact report, there's a whole spread on that. We have started it in 2022, where we partner with a local nonprofit that has a tourism-facing function that we can help support, both in kind. We give a small private dollar sponsorship to them as well for the year, and then we kind of take them under our wing all year and map out a promotional plan. So for 2024, we were excited to work with Nuestros Raíces, which is the Hispanic professional business group, and we helped them promote their tacos and tequila. We actually completely rebranded their event for them and did a whole marketing structure, which was awesome. And we were excited to see that they had the most attendance they've had since they started 4 years ago, and they're going to build even more off of that this year. And we also have a ex officio from their board on our board now, so we are really partnering with them. That was a good deal. Next. Okay, you can go again. I like to have a little, slide in between to let people know the break. Our Visitor Information Center, as you know, we do man the Visitor Information Center at the Riverfront Park. This year, on the next slide, you can see that we had, I'm sorry, 2 more slides. We'll go through these in a second. We had 35,000 people come through the doors that we help service in the Visitor Center. We're not quite to 2019 numbers, but we're getting there. And part of that has to do with some of the fun activations that we have worked out with the city and the park to take over the patio in front of the Visitor Center, where we're hosting events. We're hosting free photo booths for the community. We have a really good, diverse group of people that come from all over the county into the park that we provide some fun giveaways for and information. And we're also renovating the inside of the Visitor Center to make sure it's a little bit more accessible, ADA practices and things like that. But we are excited to be at the park. It's a good partnership, continue to build those numbers. And we have had to invest in some safety parameters too around the Visitor Center, just to, as I'm sure you're probably aware of the conversation in the community. There's been a little bit of interestingly enough, there's some teenagers that cause some issues. I feel like they just need some places to go, but we've been able to handle it pretty well, and the park's been great to work with. Our Visitor Information Center also this year, for the first time ever, has partnered more so with the sports during the Q1, where we have a lot of activities inside in Spokane. We did some pop-up presentations at PNQ and middle school ball, where we're providing information for not only athletes, like athlete itineraries, but also their families, and what to do and see while they're in town for those events. And this year we'll be working with them again, as well as during the NCAA women's tournament. We have some fun things planned. These are just some numbers for any of you that like numbers. We actively promote tourism in all levels of digital marketing that you can think of. We do not do anything creepy, but marketing in general is kind of creepy, right? We collect a lot of data and then we segment it and deliver ads. Really excited to have 2 million unique visitors to our website this year. It was about a 500,000 increase due to our advertising program. Then 2023, social media followers went over 100,000 this year, which is awesome. It's a milestone for us. We're excited to see that. And then our social engagement rate has increased a little bit as well. So we're going to continue to try to get those numbers going. A lot of that has to do with emphasis on securing visual assets. So photo and video, very expensive. We work with local videographers as well. And we're doing more kind of short video footage on all of our channels to kind of boost up our impressions. Next slide.
Question on that.
Mhm.
The website impressions
Mhm.
is 2 million
Unique.
high historically or just relative to last year?
It's high historically,
Good.
yes. And we're doing more, it could be higher though. We're working on
Always.
getting it higher, yeah. Yep.
Cool.
We're also gonna be doing a website kind of update in 2025, which I'll talk about later. Other things that we do that are take up a lot of time and are bringing good numbers is our blogs on our website. The reason why I like to mention this is because that is where we can kind of create a storyline and focus really specifically on small business, tourism-facing small business. So we can do business call-outs, and we can direct ads back to our blog. So, for example, if we have a blog all around vegetarian eats or something like that, we can call out specific restaurants and deliver some ads to them. So we're always looking to increase our blog reads. And then our newsletter signups are really important. That is obviously people asking us for information and clicking through information. And we like to take the data of what people have looked at and clicked on and then send them new information. So excited to see those both increase. Next slide. I'm actually going to gloss over this, but it's super important. But we had just over $7.5 million in earned media this year through our marketing, through our pitches, through our PR. I'm sure many of you are familiar with the great Kate Hudson on our team, who's on the local news every Friday, but we're also pitching national stories and regional stories for pickup. So we were down in the amount of national pickups that we had, but we were actually up in the amount of earned media that garnered because we had a really great pickup in travel and leisure this year, which was a goal that Kate set 8 years ago when she started this job, and we finally were able to get that to come true in 2024. And that actually became syndicated and picked up by Yahoo and a bunch of other platforms. So most of the time when you hear of Spokane in the news outside of local news, most chances are it came from our office. We have a very active and engaged marketing plan to promote the destination outside of the regional scope. So a lot of people don't know that. I like to remind them about it. You can go to the next page. This is just some examples of our new brand in our campaign that we're running. It's called All Around You. Historically, what's different from the past is Visit Spokane was running 2 separate campaigns, one for meetings and one for leisure. In 2024, we're optimizing our dollars, creating one look and feel, and then segmenting delivery based on the data sets. So we're able to invest in photography and videography that's the same, and have the all around you message be all around you for the meeting planner as well as all around you for the leisure visitor, and make the most of that message without having to do 2 fully creative campaigns. Next page. Just an example of some video. We'll go to the next one. They're not playing. Merriam Magical Lane, this is an important one. We partnered with Downtown Spokane Partnership this year to do a lighting install over Post Street, a permanent lighting install over Post Street. These are projects we love to do, and we would love to do more of if we had more funding. We use some private dollars for this. So we're activating the street. This is creating an experience for people to come year round. Obviously, we activated it during Christmas. We had some events happening. The pathway from River Park Square to the historic Davenport for the Christmas tree, Festival of Trees, or Christmas. What's it called?
Elegance.
Yeah, Christmas Elegance. It's called Festival of Trees where I came from, so I always get confused. So we were happy to partner with them, and it's still up now. It's up year round. We had to work with the fire chief a little bit, so if you have ins with that, let me know. We're trying to make it a little bit easier to do these types of activations and installs. Beautification, placemaking projects is what we like to call them. So then we can activate them with events or work with other tourism-facing corporate organizations to have events that we can help promote.
Just a comment.
Mm-hmm.
This project has at least one fan in my household. My 11-month-old loves to point up
Oh,
at the
great.
lights when
Yeah.
walking downtown. There you
Yeah,
go.
it's great. We're eyeing North Monroe to see if that's something that we can do across the light poles, so I'll keep you posted. All right, next page. We already kind of went over media. We can go through this. We're going to just click through sales really quickly so we can keep going. And keep going. Keep going. I'm sure you all read and memorized this already. All right, let's leave it right here. So convention sales wrap up. So this is the most important. So we set a goal for ourselves. Well, and actually the hotels set a goal for us, and we have to bring them back a little bit. 83,000 room nights on a signed contract deal, which means they are coming, they've inked a contract. If they don't come, they're still gonna have to pay something to the destination. So we actually were able to pass that this year, 84,533. Yay, super exciting. And then we set some consumption goal is kind of how many rooms do we get in the year for the year, and we were able to get 58,000 rooms for the year of 2024 that actually came through in the destination. So a lot of those 84,000 room nights are for years ahead, right? So we're signing contracts into 27, 28, 29. We're talking with 2030 and 2032 for some groups, and we're feeling optimistic about the future of meetings and group space. We had a great closing percentage, 41%. That has to do with really, it doesn't sound great, I guess, if you think of other numbers, but for the industry, that is great. Anything over 30 is exceptional. When we bring a meeting planner to Spokane and they get to experience a destination in person, they're blown away and almost always are signing a deal after that. So it's very expensive to kind of bring people here and show them around in a proper way, and you have to wine and dine them, and they're used to, they get treated, they've had all sorts of bougie experiences. So we gotta be, we have to kind of spoil them a little bit. But once they come, they love it. And that's also the experience that I had when I first came, like landing here. It's just such a beautiful, impactful moment. So we're happy to see that number increase. And then we're tracking at the bottom here, it's number of bookings using 2 hotels plus the convention center. We used to call this citywide. We're getting away from the term citywide because it's changed a little bit. Citywide used to mean something different than what it does now in terms of the number of people coming. We want to make sure the convention is being used and it's taking over the convention space meetings, but they're also spilling out into at least 2 hotels. Most of the time that's the Grand and the DoubleTree, but we're also filling the rest of the Davenport's properties, as well as like the Marriott and the Best Western City Plus right downtown. Ruby River is another one that we work with. So we had a goal for 15 and we had 16 groups that we signed for 2024, which is great. Next.
Can I ask, when you say you're working with groups for 2030 and 2032, yep, the groups that plan that far in advance, 5 to 7 years out, are those, would it be correct to think those are probably the really big events if they're planning that far in advance?
Yeah, so those are going to be our national events. Okay. And they're going to be ones that, and the reason why they might even be even further out is because they'll do an East Coast, a Middle USA, and a West Coast. So even if they love being in Spokane in 2024, they might not technically be able to come back until 2028 after they do their placement throughout the nation. So it is usually the bigger groups. We're seeing, just to add on to that, the bigger groups are not coming at the number that they used to in terms of just with COVID and the ability to do remote logins and things like that. We are seeing a group size a little bit down, but it still would be our national, you're talking at least 1,500 rooms, 2,000 rooms on peak that are coming through. Yeah. This is just a really quick chart to show that once we secure a group, we have a lot of work to do to get them here and make sure that their attendance is showing up. So like I noted, the group size is a little bit down. So anybody that's coming to Spokane, we work with associations, so not like corporate groups, we do associations, so they don't have to come. It's their choice to come to the annual convention. So we have a team that is doing attendance building years leading up to these events coming, just to show them how cool Spokane is, and we provide materials and promotion, things they can mail out to their members to try to make sure that they come. And then on top of that, we're usually servicing the association's board, a year or 2 years before, giving them a site visit and have a planning session with them. And then when they are actually in town, we do a full welcome campaign. If it's a group size, a certain group size, we do a full welcome campaign. We take over the Big Belly trash cans, which sounds weird, but we also put window clings downtown. We're working with businesses to make sure there's promotional things that say their group name so they feel very welcomed. One of the ways that we're able to also convince groups to come is these larger groups that Josh mentioned. You know, they're used to going to places like Boston, Las Vegas, Chicago, and when they come to Spokane, they get to be, I like to say, they get to be the main character. They get to take over the town, and they get to feel really special that all of the restaurants, the mall, you know, all of our efforts are welcoming them by name, and they're not getting confused with other groups in town, because when we do a full takeover, it is really one group that takes over. So that's something we use to our advantage. Next. I think we'll go through this quickly, just some great pictures of our team. Keep going. And these last two slides are important. I end every presentation with this. We showcase the destination's full range by trying to enhance the overall visitor experience. So although we just went through convention service stuff, and I mentioned this in our annual meeting last week, we have a lot of other things that we cover. You can go to the next slide. So all of these segments of tourism are things that fall under our umbrella. We do a lot of work and we bring in a lot of money through conventions, but we're also promoting, niche market tourism as well as agritourism. We do some sports on the sides of like athlete itineraries and functions around that. We don't do sport recruitment because our partners at Spokane Sports do that. But culinary attractions, visitor experiences, ecotourism, all of those are things that we're promoting constantly, because nobody's really coming for a convention just because the convention is super cool and the hotel is like cool, right? They want to actually experience the city around their stay, and we're trying to convince them to stay longer. And it's even better if they bring their spouse or their partner and they do a second trip because they loved it so much. So we're promoting all of these segments. It's just important for you all to know that. So this report has a lot of other information kind of lined out of what we do in the community. I won't go through it because I've taken up enough of your time, but please read it. I'm happy to answer any questions now or in the future on this. We're really excited about the Community Impact Report. We will have our Tourism Economic Impact Report that comes out every May. We work with Tourism Economics, which is the global leader in data research. We'll present those numbers in May of 2025. 23 numbers, like I mentioned earlier, $1.5 billion in visitor spending, so we're hoping to see that increase in 2024. Any questions?
Commissioner Jordan.
Just wanted to wish you a happy restaurant week.
Oh,
I know
yes.
you guys are supporting that
Yes,
as well.
we
So,
love it. I just went out to Root last night and Karma last weekend. So, yeah, we love Restaurant Week. And the restaurants are needing those dollars, so we're happy to help support that. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay. Bring us back to miscellaneous. Any other miscellaneous items? Commissioner Jordan?
I just want to let the board know that Commissioner Cooney and I last year were invited by GSI, DSP, Valley Chamber, and the Empire Health Foundation to visit Whatcom County with a bunch of folks in the community, kind of learn from their recent efforts to successfully pass a ballot measure related to public safety and behavioral health. So there's been continued meetings about monthly of many of the folks who attended that group just to share information, learn about our system. There have been jail visits arranged, visits of the Crisis Stabilization Center. And I think tomorrow afternoon there's kind of a final or potentially final meeting of those who have been gathering. And so Commissioner Cooney and I will kind of bring back to the board as early as next week or soon thereafter, just kind of summarizing what comes of that, reporting back to the board. So just want to give you a heads up that there's more to come on that soon.
Is there agenda items queued up for you guys to act on? Or?
Not at the moment, but
Okay.
To be determined.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
I think we'll bring it back most likely on the 10th for strategic planning, but if that changes, I'll let you know.
Sounds good. Okay. Any other items? Commissioner Walter?
Well, I was just going to say our last regional homeless meeting, the next step that might come forward is an updated interlocal agreement. So just an update that the city, county, and City of the Valley, which I don't think was originally part of the original interlocal agreement about homeless services, but they're interested in becoming a part of that. So I just reached out to George, like put a bug in his ear yesterday. I think they had a meeting last week to look at changes. So when there's changes to that document, I don't know if you have more info, Matt, from the legal perspective, but I think it's just an updated document that might have some more ways that we can work together to align our resources and share data and things like that. So just stay tuned. And when that is ready to come forward, we'll bring it forward for the board to review and consider.
Yeah, I was under the impression, I think each of the jurisdictions will probably
Right.
sign that before the next regional homeless meeting even is queued up, but, so yeah,
I haven't seen the most
I
recent
haven't
draft,
either.
so.
I haven't either, so. Okay.
Very good.
Anything else? Scott?
No, nothing miscellaneous, and I don't believe we have any exec sessions.
Okay.
No exec sessions for me.
Well, okay. Well, then in that case, it is 9:58. And we will reconvene at 2 o'clock for our consent agenda. So we will adjourn for the morning. See y'all back at 2 o'clock.